In Bahrain, the engines have finally fired up, and the 2026 technical revolution has delivered its first real, most naked track report. This morning in the Sakhir paddock, no one was immune to the brutality and unpredictability of these new cars. Even the grid's masters, from Max Verstappen to Lewis Hamilton, struggled to catch the rear as the most strategic point of the paddock, turn 10, turned into a complete slaughterhouse. These cars are smaller, more agile, but equally unforgiving. The ground effect era's stuck to the ground, cumbersome but stable structure is officially behind us. Now we face a completely different generation that dances under braking and practically betrays its driver while charging the battery. Watching Trackside, you can feel how alive these cars are. Before we dive into this first Trackside report in Bahrain and the chilling limits of the 2026 monsters in the finest detail, subscribing to the channel to follow this first true test with me would be a fantastic motivation. Now we begin to deconstruct the chaos at Bahrain's Turn 10 and the true character of the 2026 cars with the paddock's deepest analysis. Sakhir's tight, sharp left-hand Turn 10 is the paddock's most perfect and honest spot to see the limits and weaknesses of the 2026 cars. The track gradient falls away suddenly beneath the driver, and at that exact moment, the combination of heavy braking, steering input, and a light inside front wheel turns the smallest miscalculation into a massive error. Both Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton had to practically wrestle with the steering to catch sudden and frightening rear slides at the corner entry. The old cars were big, cumbersome, and very heavy. Once a lockup started, it wouldn't end, and would persist until the straight. However, the 2026 cars feel so responsive and light that as drivers discover the limits, the cars start to behave like purebred racing cars. Turn 10 showed us today that in this new era, balance is everything, and any driver who misses that balance by a micron finds themselves instantly in the runoff areas. What we witnessed at Turn 10 on Wednesday morning was a literal lock-up carnival. Lewis Hamilton and young talent Franco Colapinto missed the corner entirely on one lap and ran so far wide that the lack of downforce and grip was visible to the naked eye. Interestingly, Colapinto, driving for Ferrari, steered right, the complete opposite direction of the turn, to safely use the runoff area instead of forcing the rotation. Valtteri Bottas took this chaos to an even more extreme, smoky level. Entering the corner with the new Cadillac, Bottas suffered such a massive lockup that a giant pure white plume of smoke engulfed the paddock. The sound of that deep flat spot on the tyre could be heard from everywhere on the track. Lance Stroll gave a lesson in negative stability with the Aston Martin. He locked up 3 times in just 4 laps at the same spot, disappearing deep into the corner every time. These scenes were the first concrete evidence of how ferocious, unstable, and difficult to control the 2026 cars are under braking. So why are such master drivers suddenly locking up like rookies? The answer lies in the sneaky operating principle of the Energy Recovery System, or ERS, at the heart of the 2026 engine rules. In this new generation, harvesting energy is no longer just a side task, it's the core component for the engine's survival. This intense energy recovery from the rear axle during braking changes the car's brake balance dynamically every lap, even every second of the corner. Drivers are no longer fighting a static brake balance but a resistance that changes character every moment. As the battery fills, the brake feel shifts, causing the rear of the cars to squirm during the braking phase. While in the old ground effect cars, balance usually shifted mid-corner, in the 2026 monsters, the rear starts moving right as braking begins. This invisible hand, the variable ERS pressure on the rear axle, is the biggest and sneakiest technical reason why drivers are making so many mistakes at the infamous Turn 10. There was another striking detail in our close trackside observations: the sharp differences in downshifting strategies. Max Verstappen and the bright name of the new generation, Gabriel Bortoleto, chose to go down 1 gear further into Turn 10 than most of their rivals. This caused their cars to be much more unsettled as they approached the apex, squirming left and right almost like a rally car. However, this has a cost and a very big reward. A lower gear means the engine spins at much higher revs and screams with a sound that rings through the paddock before upshifting. With this aggressive gear strategy, Verstappen is trying to keep the engine's torque and battery harvesting at their absolute peak. These scenes were the clearest proof of how much the driver's mechanical control over the car has increased in 2026, but also how much the margin for error has shrunk. 1 gear difference in 2026 could be the fine line between a championship and the barriers. Let's admit it, the 2026 cars sometimes look truly ugly at Turn 10. It feels like they take an eternity to rotate from entry to exit, and correcting even a tiny rear slide seems almost impossible due to that reduced downforce. But the other side of the coin is actually much brighter and more exciting. These cars look and feel much more like purebred racing cars. That small but strategic reduction in size is surprisingly noticeable, and it's an old paddock rule: Smaller always looks faster and more dangerous. The 2026 cars respond with much sharper, more responsive feedback to the driver's slightest steering inputs. Now the car's balance starts shifting not mid-corner, but as soon as braking begins. This means the driver has more agency over the car during entry and those millimetric moments within the turn. The comments from Barcelona that the driver is more in control were officially and technically certified today on Bahrain's dusty tarmac. At the end of the day, there is one rule in the Bahrain paddock, and indeed in all of Formula One history, that never changes. The biggest lap time gains are always hidden in those boring-looking slow corners. Dominating these turns in the 2026 generation is not just about having a perfect chassis. It depends on how the engine, battery systems, and gearbox speak in a symphony with these corners. Energy harvesting during braking, engine torque during downshifting, and electrical push on exit must be in perfect harmony. Whoever solves this dynamic chaos, this variable brake balance, faster will be at the top of that podium during the season opener in Melbourne. The first day of Bahrain testing showed us that the 2026 cars are like ferocious, wild horses that must be tamed. Understanding the character of this generation and correctly linking it to the engine's complex operating principles means holding the key to the 2026 championship battle. The first day of Bahrain testing ended as the sun slowly set over Sakhir, painting the desert sky in deep orange and red tones. And our first report shows one single, undeniable truth. The 2026 generation is much more challenging, much more technical, and much more exciting to watch than any of us expected. From the very first laps, it became clear that this is not just another regulation change, but a complete reset of how Formula One cars behave on the limit. Max Verstappen's subtle gear games, constantly playing with traction and engine braking, Hamilton's smoke-emitting lock tyres under heavy braking, and Cadillac's raw, noisy and slightly chaotic debut start are just the visible tip of a massive iceberg. Beneath the surface, there's an entirely new layer of complexity that teams are still trying to decode. These cars are smaller, more responsive, sharper on direction changes, but at the same time equally ready to punish their driver at any moment. One small miscalculation, one late brake input, or one wrong ERS deployment, and the car bites back instantly. The infamous Turn 10 of the paddock practically became a live laboratory today. We saw corrections, lockups, snap oversteer moments, and different racing lines every lap. That single corner showed us the future of Formula One in real time, a brand new era where the smallest mistake is costly, margins are razor thin, and the driver's true physical skill, mental focus, and technical intelligence finally come to the fore again. It's no longer just about pure aero efficiency, it's about who can truly master the machine beneath them. And that raises the big question for all of us: who will be the first true ruler of 2026 among these ugly but proper racing cars? Will experience and precision give veterans the edge, or will young talents adapt faster to this nervous, unpredictable behavior? Will this dynamic chaos of the ERS system, energy harvesting and deployment strategies determine the fate of the season, or will the drivers simply wrestle the cars into submission and make the difference themselves? One thing is certain, this season already feels less predictable, more human, and far more dramatic than what we've grown used to. And honestly, that's exactly what Formula One needed. Let's discuss the Bahrain report and your 2026 predictions down in the comments. I'll continue to analyze every bit of data leaking from the track, every onboard detail, and every technical clue the teams accidentally reveal. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the freshest paddock news, Bahrain leaks, and deep technical breakdowns.